Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up and our continuation of our James Bond retrospective. We've made our way through the first decade of Bond, encompassing 7 films across 2 actors in the lead role, Sean Connery and George Lazenby. Now we begin the Roger Moore era, the third actor to take on the role and indisputably the ambassador for the series. Moore accepted the role in 1972, and following The Spy Who Loved Me, his third film, he agreed to return to the series on a film-by-film basis, constantly thinking that the next film would be his last, until he finally decided after his 7th, A View to a Kill, at the more seasoned age of 58, that the time was now to bow out gracefully from the role. The search for the third 007 began in June 1972, where Jeremy Brett, David Warbeck, and later Moore-era Bond villain Julian Glover auditioned for the role using a scene from the script where Bond encounters Rosie Carver. According to series producer Cubby Broccoli, with a David Niven-like touch in his humour, 6'2" and handsome, Roger had a claim on 007 that was far stronger than all the other possible candidates. In fact, Moore had initially been considered to take on the role after Connery's initial departure after You Only Live Twice, so if it hadn't been for television commitments and scheduling conflicts, Roger Moore could have been Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That's an intriguing thought on its own. Writer of the previous adventure Diamonds Are Forever, Tom Mankiewicz, delivered his first draft of the screenplay for Live and Let Die in May 1972, opening with Baron Samedi murdering a white man with a machete amid a pre-titles chase sequence that would introduce the new Bond. The finale, as in Fleming's novel, has Bond and Solitaire dragged over a reef as shark bait behind the villain's boat, the Secateur. In the second draft, the Secateur finale remains, but Mr. Big is not fed to the sharks. Instead, he's inflated with a shark gun pressurised gas pellet, which Bond pushes into his mouth. The pre-title sequence has also been altered to reflect the 3 kills as we see in the actual film. Early drafts of Mankiewicz's script had Mr. Big's alter ego named Jakarta, but this was changed to Kananga, named after Ross Kananga, the owner of the real crocodile farm, for the sequence in the film's second act. Besides New York and New Orleans, Jamaica was also used as a returning location after its use in Dr. No, including as a double for the fictional Caribbean island of Saint Monique. Haiti and St. Lucia had initially been considered for the exotic finale. Filming on Live and Let Die began in the bayous in autumn 1972, before the cast and crew filmed on location in Jamaica. The double-decker bus chase, one of the action highlights of the film, was one of the last major set pieces to be filmed on the island in December 1972. Casting Live and Let Die appeared to be a breeze. Jane Seymour, one of the series' youngest female leads at just 21, joined the cast as card reader Solitaire. Yaphet Kotto was approached to play the villainous Dr. Kananga by United artist David Picker. Kotto was just finishing Across 110th Street, an MGM production, when he was instructed to come to London to begin work on Bond. Kotto decided early on that Kananga was a fan of James Bond, but was ultimately jealous of the man, so he was going to be as suave, as elegant as Bond. He was going to wear better clothes than Bond, sip better champagne than Bond, and have better women than Bond. Dr. Kananga saw himself as a social competitor to 007. With Julius Harris signed on to play henchman Tee-Hee, Earl Jolly Brown playing Whisper, and flamboyant dance choreographer Geoffrey Holder portraying the voodoo god of ceremonies Baron Samedi, Mankiewicz ensured that the black antagonists would have a sense of humour and intelligence to go up against Bond. The colour of their skin was irrelevant because they were villains, so of course Bond would ultimately triumph. The obligatory gun barrel opens on a United Nations meeting where we're introduced very fleetingly to our chief Bond villain Kananga and Solitaire, the first time the main villain and main Bond girl appear in the film before Bond himself. In fact, much like Connery's entrance was delayed in the opening of Dr. No, so too is Moore's here. This is the first time since From Russia with Love where the actual 007 does not appear in the pre-titles. A bold move from the creatives who were trying to introduce the audience to the new Bond as quickly and smoothly as possible. Instead, we traverse New York, Jamaica, doubling for Saint Monique, and New Orleans for the murder of 3 agents. New Orleans is a fascinating location for Bond, and returning director Guy Hamilton's love of jazz saw the scene written to have the agent killed and become part of his own jazz funeral. The actor playing Baines, who is tied up with the snake coming towards him on San Monique, actually fainted when the scene was cut. After the colourful pre-titles, we launch into possibly the most memorable Bond theme of them all, from the incredible Paul McCartney and Wings, accompanied by one of Maurice Binder's most striking works on the titles. It's not until after the evocative titles that we aptly see our new 007 bedding an Italian agent, Madeline Smith's beautiful Miss Caruso, in his flat. In another similarity to Dr. No, this is the second time that we've seen Bond's home, and he's rudely awoken by M and Moneypenny, briefing him on his next mission. Live and Let Die marks the first film in the series not to include Major Boothroyd, or Q, until Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace 3 decades later. The sequence contains Roger Moore's favourite gadget during his Bond tenure, the magnetic Rolex watch, which is not only ideal for deflecting bullets and attracting gas pellets, but also for unzipping dresses. The thing that was most apparent about Moore's Bond was the shift in tone towards humour. The quips are delivered expertly by Moore, where they would have felt forced had Connery carried on in the role at this time. Guy Hamilton and Roger Moore worked closely to ensure that there were no hang-ups from the Connery era or direct imitations in Moore's interpretation of the character. For example, Bond is not seen ordering a vodka martini in this film. His drink of choice is bourbon no ice. Tom Mankiewicz said it best in his commentary for the film in comparing the two actors' approaches to the role. Connery could lean over and kiss a girl or stick a knife in her. Moore could kiss the girl, but if he stuck a knife in her, he would look nasty. Moore added, "When I reread the Fleming novels, there was a line that stated Bond did not particularly enjoy killing, and that was the key to my interpretation of the role. I wouldn't enjoy killing, but I'd do it professionally, quickly, and accurately." As previously mentioned, there are a number of similarities between Connery and Moore's debut films. Both practically start their missions proper at airports before being taken for a ride in death cabs. Quarrel is Bond's ally in Dr. No and his son Quarrel Jr. in Let Die. There was also a rumour that Ursula Andress would also return to the series in Live and Let Die for a cameo, which didn't come to fruition. Live and Let Die is a colourful movie with excellent locations and great attention to detail from the art department. Take a look at the 007 logo, which appears on the back of Solitaire's tarot cards, the next time you watch the movie. David Hedison, arguably the series' best Felix Leiter, makes his debut appearance here. Up to Live and Let Die, he's the fifth actor to play Bond's ally over 8 films, and does a great job, showing great chemistry with Moore. Clifton James also marks his debut as the most Marmite character, Sheriff J.W. Pepper, in this film, arguably the most larger-than-life non-villainous character to grace the series up to this point. There are a number of standout moments in Moore's Bond debut. Bond stacking Solitaire's cards up to reveal lovers before taking her virginity is as typically Bondian as it gets, and the Moore films also get to boast some of the most impressive stunts to feature in the franchise. None more spectacular here than the real Ross Kananga, owner of the crocodile farm, doubling for Moore, jumping over the backs of the crocs to escape from the farm. The sequence took weeks to prepare and 5 attempts in total to perfect the sequence, with the scene complete on December the 31st, 1972. A fantastic way to end the year. It wasn't all fun and impressive stunts on the film, however. Roger Moore suffered from kidney stones, and difficulties were taking their toll on producers Harry and Cubby, so much so that between them they divided their duties on the last 3 films they made together. Diamonds Are Forever and The Man with the Golden Gun were overseen by Cubby, and Harry coordinated production on Live and Let Die. Filming in Jamaica was complete in December 1972, after which the cast and crew returned to Pinewood Studios to film on sets, including Bond's flat, shot across 3 days at the end of February 1973, Solitaire's throne room, and the Fillet of Soul restaurant interiors. The scenes in Kananga's grotto, where the villain has an inflated opinion of himself, were shot over the last 2 weeks of January 1973, and Baron Samedi's Voodoo Cemetery was shot on Pinewood's E stage, complete with rubber snakes and papier-mâché gravestones in the first 2 weeks of February 1973. The last ingenious shot of the film, with an unscathed, laughing Baron Samedi on the front of the train, was shot on D stage at Pinewood on February the 23rd, 1973. The reason that Baron Samedi gets the last laugh as the only surviving villain of the piece is that the original plan was for Samedi to pop up in the next film, but the idea was eventually scrapped. Seeing him alive at the end of the film brilliantly adds to the mystery of the character and his ambiguity. Filming wrapped on Live and Let Die on March the 16th, 1973, leaving just over 3 months for George Martin's brilliant score to be laid and for the film to be edited, ready for the London premiere on July the 5th, 1973. Although it takes Moore nearly 25 minutes to utter the now world-famous Bond James Bond, audiences accepted Moore's approach to the role instantly, with box office results being the best since the height of Bond mania with Thunderball 8 years earlier. As Moore has stated, there is always a huge challenge associated with taking over a role from another actor, particularly when he has enjoyed great success. I knew I'd face comparisons and wondered if I'd even be accepted by audiences. If it didn't work, I could always go back to modelling sweaters and gorging myself on more Fleming-esque lunches in Venice while letting my hair grow down my back. Furthermore, Moore admitted that the only time he was nervous about being James Bond was on the way to Leicester Square for Live and Let Die's premiere. In hindsight, he really needn't have been. Moore states on his commentary for the film that after The Spy Who Loved Me, this is his favourite of his Bond adventures, and it's easy to see why. There's a good mix of comedy and seriousness. The last words go to Cubby Broccoli and director Guy Hamilton. According to Cubby, we had to make Roger believe he was 007, recognising that Bond could be a mean bastard at times and a bit sadistic if the situation called for it. This would find its way into moments of Moore's portrayal of the character over the ensuing entries in the series, but Moore is most fondly remembered as the Loverman Bond, and quite right too. Guy Hamilton warned, "I don't expect them to laugh and cheer when he appears. He's got to earn their respect." And that's exactly what Moore managed to do from the beginning. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up.
Alrighty then.
What are your thoughts on Roger Moore's Bond debut? How does it fare against the previous entries in the series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and please subscribe to the channel at the top of the page. Come and find Crawford-Clark Close-Up on Facebook and Twitter, and drop us an email with suggestions for future reviews to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. James Bond will return in our review of Roger Moore's second outing in the title role, The Man with the Golden Gun. Thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.